Hi, I'm Justin McCoy, and I'm a developer advocate here at IBM. I wanted to share an end-to-end example on how to deploy a machine learning prediction model and consume it through an app. For this example, we're going to use IBM's cloud to host the Nodejs app. We're going to use Watson's data platform and the data science experience to train and build a model, and the Watson Machine Learning service to host our trained model for consumption. I want to emphasize that in order to follow this tutorial, you don't need any tools. You don't need to install any libraries on your machine. So if you're using a Chromebook or if you're sitting in the library, you can proceed without really any issues with this tutorial. Before we get started, I'm assuming that you have an IBM Cloud account. If you don't, it's free, and everything you do today in this example is free too. You don't have to supply a credit card to get started. No, I'm going to walk you through the example pretty quickly, but the source is available on GitHub. It's Apache 2.0, so please take, fork, modify, and build from it. And with that, let's get started. I am out here on GitHub at github.com/IBM/predict-model-on-Watson-ML. That's predict model on Watson ML. And it's going to take you here and show you that this is our project. It contains instructions on how to get started on IBM Cloud, how to set up all the services necessary on IBM Cloud to create, train, and deploy and consume a machine learning model out in the cloud. And to do that, I've got a flow diagram here, just kind of giving a high-level overview about what we're going to do today. This particular example scoring example is predicting heart rate failure. I want to stress that this is not real data and should not be used in a medical purpose in any way. It's just really showing what is possible with the platform, showing an end-to-end example. And it would be really easy, it is really easy, to swap out the data set used here for predicting heart rate failure with your own data. So in this code pattern, we are using Jupyter Notebooks. I'm assuming that you're familiar with Jupyter Notebooks. If not, it doesn't take long to catch on. The IBM's data science experience. Again, we're building a predictive model, and it's demonstrating potential healthcare use cases. We're using a customized Nodejs app to consume and make predictions based off of data you specify in the Nodejs app. And here we're going to talk through the example from the point of view of a developer. I have here in the flow, there are two particular developers. One is an app developer. That app developer is someone that is going to build an app to consume your model. And then you have a data science developer, or someone to build and train and deploy your machine learning model. So as you see here, the app developer is deploying a Node.js app that is being consumed by an external party. As a data science developer, you're interacting with the data science experience. And the data science experience is built on top of Apache Spark. It's using object storage to store your notebooks and your data. And you're using a Jupyter Notebook to train your models, to write your code. It's your coding platform. You're importing data into object storage. And once you've built and trained your model, you're going to deploy it to Watson Machine Learning Service for consumption. And with that, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do, I have my IBM Cloud account open up here in my left window. So I'm going to deploy an application. And all I have to do this is I'm going to copy the link address of this deploy to IBM Cloud button. And I'm going to open it up in a new tab. And so deploy to IBM Cloud. And this is going out and it's grabbing the code from this GitHub project. and it's going to create a tool chain to build and deploy that code as a service. So here's the tool chain. It pops right up. I'm logged into my IBM Cloud account. And I'm just going to call the tool chain name demo Watson Data Platform and my initials, JAM. And here it's going to name the application demo Watson Data Platform JAM. I'm deploying it in an organization and in my development space. So I'll go ahead and click deploy. So again, this is building a tool chain that's going to go out through and pull the app out of GitHub and deploy it onto IBM Cloud. And once it's deployed, we'll have a full running Node.js app that is consumable. So I'm double clicking on my delivery pipeline, and this is just going to show me my different stages of the deployment, my build stage and my deployment stage. And as you see here, the build stage is running. It is looking out at GitHub, and it's pulling the most recent commit, which was 8 days ago. So it was able to get the code, build the code, and now it is deploying that code in a new Cloud Foundry space out on the IBM Cloud. So while it's running, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on Catalog. It's in the top right-hand corner of my IBM Cloud dashboard here. And I'm going to look for a machine learning. And what I'm doing here is I am creating a new Watson Machine Learning service. This is a place to host our trained model when we get to that point. And you notice there are, we can name our service. We have to make sure it's in the same organization and dev space as our app. So my organization and dev space are the same for my app, my machine learning service. And there's a free version. So with the free version, you get to host 5 models, and you can make 5,000 predictions without having to enter in any credit card information. All right, so I clicked create, and what happens here is it goes out and it creates an instance of this Watson Machine Learning service that we will use to host our model once it has been trained. Okay, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I will hope I'm going to go into my dashboard. I'm going to click on this hamburger menu in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to click on DevOps. I'm really curious to see how my tool chain is progressing, and I have my WDP demo 1 with my initials. Click on the delivery pipeline one more time here. And I see that the build stage and deployment stage have both been successful. So with that, I'm going to go back to this hamburger menu in the top left corner. This just gives us access to all the different features within IBM's cloud. If we're looking for containers, infrastructure, different services, I'm just going to click on Dashboard. And I should expect to see, okay, I have a Cloud Foundry app, and it's demo-wdp-jam, mybluemix.net. So when I name my app, it's the host name, and this is publicly available today on the internet. So if I click on that link, demo-wdp-jam.mybluemix.net, it takes me to my Node.js application. A really simple application that allows me to input some features and then score that. And in order to score that, I need to create and deploy my model. If I click on this now, nothing will happen. Error, as expected. Okay. So I've gone through and I've created a Node.js app and deployed it, and it's now hosted and available to the external user. And I've created a Watson Machine Learning service. So I go back to my dashboard here and I look for my machine learning service. It's been created and is running. Now I want my machine learning service and my app to communicate without having to exchange credentials back and forth. And in order to do that, we want to create a connection between the machine learning service and the app. So here, once I've clicked on my machine learning service, on the left-hand side, I select connections, create connection, and it pops up and it sees that there's a Cloud Foundry app that's available to connect to. I'm just going to go ahead and click connect, and it's going to ask me if I want to restage my app. Restaging is just restarting the app with the credentials available to the app runtime. So yes, I do want to restage my app. And here on the right-hand side, I'm just scrolling through the GitHub README. Okay, it is now restaging. I'm going to go back to my dashboard to survey what I have deployed. So I have my demo app. It's not running, but it will, if I refresh, it should be running here in a moment. And I have my machine learning service, and I'll have a continuous delivery, and that's where our toolchain built and deployed our app. Okay, the next thing I want to do is create an instance of the data science experience. This is the platform, the IDE we use to create and train our machine learning models. So data science experience. And it pops up here under the data analytics section of the IBM Cloud Catalog. I'm okay with the default name for this. I just want to make sure it's in the right organization and space. Again, this is free. So with the free version of the data science experience, we get a 5 gigabytes of object storage to store our data. We get 2 Spark executors for executing tasks. And then there is support from the community. DSX is really a community platform for data science. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And that's it. So it's gone through and it's created an instance of the data science experience for us. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. I just like to have everything up on my dashboard to monitor what I'm creating and how things are running. And as you see here, my demo WDP-jam is now up and running. It has been restaged and redeployed. Okay. So the next step here, I'm on step 4 of the README. I'm going to create a new tab. And I'm going to go to datascience.ibm.com. And this takes me to the IBM Data Science Experience. You could also go to Data Platform, dataform.ibm.com. Just a different view here. This is the Watson Data Platform, which consists of the IBM Data Catalog, the Data Science Experience, and the Data Refinery. I won't get into those now, but I will in later videos. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And since this is connected to my IBM Cloud account, and I'm already signed into IBM Cloud, it's not asking me for a password. I don't have any questions at the moment. Okay. So now that I've signed in, you can see different tasks that are available, and there are different projects I have. And in the community, there are numerous sources of new tutorials, notebooks, data sets, and articles that are released on a daily basis. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is I want to create a new project. Projects where we're going to hold our notebook where we train our model. Now I'm going to just go ahead and name my project DSX Demo, or Watson Data Platform Demo, and then my initials. And in order to create a new project, we need some storage to support the data and our notebook. And we need to back it with a Spark service. Now, I don't have those things created at the moment in my IBM Cloud account, but from within the data science experience, I can create those services now. So in order to do that, and as you see, if I go back up here, you see in this flow diagram, DSX depends on Spark, object storage, Jupyter Notebooks, and data in order to build and train our model before we deploy it to Watson Machine Learning. Okay, so as you see here in the README, I'm going to create some storage. And again, I'm just going to select the free plan here. I'm going to click Create. I want to make sure it's in the right resource group. You can rename the service if you like. I'm okay with the defaults. Okay, and while that is spinning up, I'm going to go ahead and create a instance of the Spark service as well. Again, I'm just going to select the free account and select the defaults. Okay, let's refresh to see if it finds my object storage and finds my Spark engine. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and click Create. So what this is doing is it's creating a project for us, for a team of data scientists to work in, where you could create multiple notebooks, have data resources and bookmarks that are all relevant to the project that you're working on. This project is also, as you see, associated with a Spark service, so you can associate a Spark service, a unique one with each project, and different object storage with each project. I had not clicked Create, so doing that now. Oh, unable to configure credentials for your project in the selected cloud object storage instance. I think that's just have to do with a refresh. So again, WDP demo JM or Watson ML. And as this goes through, it should take me right into my notebook. And there we go. So now you can see here, this is the dashboard in the data science experience. It's our web-based IDE for data science. And this project you just have an overview. You can add collaborators, bookmarks, and different assets. To add to the assets, I want to add a notebook. You can see here there are multiple different things you can add. Notebook is going to be a Jupyter Notebook. Actually, I'm jumping ahead here. If I go back and follow the GitHub repository, it wants me to add a data asset. And something I skipped as well was downloading the data asset from this GitHub repository. The asset I am looking for is under data, and it's this patient data-.csv. And I usually clone my projects. As that is loading, I'm going to add a new data asset. And it's taking me to, it opens up this menu on the right-hand side that allows me to load from load from my desktop. I can search for files that are already in object storage. I can link to a catalog. But what I want to do is load from my desktop. A lot of files there. You download this. Save link as. Okay, I'm just going to save it to my desktop with everything else. And back here in the IBM Cloud account, I added to my project. I selected data assets. I'm just going to click browse to load the thing I just downloaded here. And it was patient. That's my download. Patient data v6, first thing. Okay, so what that's doing is it's uploading that file, that CSV file, out into my object storage that I created and I associated with my project. Catch up here in the README. Okay, so now if I look at my assets, it should show this patient data v6.csv file. Now it's asking me, I want to click on settings, and here in settings, our data science experience is associated with object storage and it's associated with Spark, but it has no connection yet to the Watson Machine Learning service. So we just want to associate that service as well. So I'm going to click on settings from within my project, add service, machine learning. What this is doing is it's going out to my IBM Cloud account and it's looking for existing machine learning services. Since we have already created that, it does exist. I have the option to create a new one if I like, but I'm just going to use the existing one I had created and just select to create or connect that machine learning service to our project. Okay. Now if we look at our settings, our settings for our project is associated with our Spark service and our machine learning service. You also have the option to connect to GitHub repository. So when you save, you don't have to save and then download and then send over to GitHub from a Jupyter Notebook. You can save directly from your Jupyter Notebook out into GitHub, or you can download code from GitHub into your Jupyter Notebook, and that's what we're going to be doing next. Okay. So at this point, it's asking me, the next thing I want to do is, I have my machine learning service connected to my notebook. I'm going to skip this and come back to it. I'm going to save my credentials for my Watson Machine Learning service because we're going to need that in my notebook. I'll get those when it gets to the point, when it gets to that point in the notebook. All right, so now that we have our data, we have all of our services connected, I want to create a new notebook. I don't want to create a new one, really. I want to download one from a URL. And the URL is right here. It's github.com, IBM Predictive Model on Watson. I'm going to name my notebook Watson Data Platform Demo Jam. Hopefully you get the pattern here. Okay, so I'm going to download a notebook from GitHub, creating a new notebook in my Watson Data Platform project. And here in the bottom, I'm just going to click Create Notebook. Error creating notebook. The error was there was a space before my HTTPS here, and now if I clicked, it will be able to download the notebook from GitHub. And from this point forward, there's some special instructions that are here in GitHub that is talking about running the notebook, but we're going to shift our focus to the code that is out here in the notebook. I'm going to zoom in a bit. And a quick overview of IPython notebooks. It's a collection of cells, and these cells you can execute small batches of code. And these small batches of code are scoped globally for the Jupyter Notebook. So as you define variables in one cell, they will persist across cells. As you work through the notebook, again, this just talks a little bit of what our goals are here. We're predicting heart rate failure with Watson Machine Learning. We're loading a CSV file from object storage. We're using Apache Spark to create and train a machine learning model. And we're going to persist that model in Watson Machine Learning repository, the service that we created just moments ago there on IBM Cloud. So in order to do the setup, we've gone through all the setup. We can move right in here to loading data. The first real cell with any code in it. If you notice, it has some comments that are preceded with important follow the lab instructions. Okay. So I go over here to the right-hand side, and I see the same comment. Important, follow the lab instructions. Okay, what are the lab instructions? And at this point, I want to import data. So I click on this button in the top right-hand corner, And this is just an additional helper function that's available in the Watson Data Platform and the Data Science Experience. It allows you to quickly create connections to existing data sources or data that you have stored in object storage or catalogs or wherever your data may be. There are lots of helpful functions to speed up that process. I don't want to write any code, so I'm just going to insert into code a Spark session data frame. As you notice here, when I clicked, I had clicked in the cell, I inserted in the code, and this goes through and it grabs my credentials from my object storage, my API key, service key, endpoint information, and the configuration name of my object storage. And it creates a DF data frame. And throughout this notebook, as noted, I need to change DF data frame 1 into DF data. And down here, DF data frame 1 into DF data. It's just a variable that's used throughout the notebook. And this option here is out of place. So I'm just going to copy and paste this to follow the previous option. All right, so now that we have our code as it follows here in the GitHub README, in order to execute this code and to start moving through the Jupyter Notebook, you can either hit the Run key here in the menu bar, or I like to use the keyboard and just hit Shift-Enter. And you notice that this cell changed from a number to a star. And up here it says, not trusted Python with Spark 2.1, and then it's a grayed out circle. Well, what that's telling you is the code that you just executed is currently busy. And as you can see, this code is running, Spark is running some progress, and it's loading that data. Okay, so we no longer have a grayed out circle in the top right-hand corner. It's no longer a star. So our code has completed, and it looks like it has completed successfully. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through very quickly what's in this notebook. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on everything that is being performed in the notebook. Feel free to ask questions in comments or to reach out to me via @McCoyJUS on Twitter, or open issues there on GitHub if you have any questions. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I've loaded my data into DF data into a data frame. I want to print the schema of that data frame. Oh, I've created a problem. So if I look here at this data, and the first thing it sees is it's importing HTML. So when I downloaded my data initially, it is HTML. I didn't do this on purpose, but I have seen this happen in the past. In order to fix this, I'm going to go back to GitHub and I'm going to re-download that data. So go back to the data. I have the data downloaded on my desk elsewhere on my machine. So I'm going to re-upload here. So I'm going to add new data, and in my account I have some development. Right here. I'm looking for this patient data v6-CSV. And since it has the same name and the one I have out there currently is incorrect, I'm just going to go ahead and replace it. I'm not sure if the links change here, so I'm going to reinsert this into the code. So I'm going to insert a new data frame, a Spark session data frame. I click here on the first cell once again. And then here, after clicking on these ones and zeros in the corner to access my data, I'm going to insert my Spark session data frame. Again, it reinserts the code. I'm going to take this option, I'm going to move it up and rename my variables. So my data frame variable name is the same throughout my entire project. That looks much better. Here I can see it's outputting the first 5 rows, and you can see here that it is now data and it's not an HTML page. If I go back here and I do a Shift Enter, I now see the schema of my imported data. And really that's just telling you if they're strings or integers, if they're nullable, and what their names are. If you want to see a little bit more detail, you can do show. And I think this shows you the top 20 rows in a table format of what your data looks like. If we want to know how much data we have, I can just, again, click Shift Enter on the next cell. And it's going to go through and it's going to count the number of rows in our data. And that's 10,800 rows of data. Quite a bit of, that's 10,800 people's worth of data. Now, there are more ways to explore your data. You want to clean your data and make sure that that you want to understand the format of all the columns within your data. You might want to look for interesting relationships if you're initially exploring your data. I, however, know exactly what is in the data and that the data is clean for this example. But if you want to explore more, there's an excellent library called Pixie Dust. And here you can go through and install Pixie Dust into this cloud-based IDE. You can import it. And all you have to do to display your data and to explore your data within Pixie Dust is type display and then pass in the data frame. And here it just gives you a mapping of body mass index to age. But really we're interested in training and deploying a machine learning model. The first step when you're doing that is you're preparing your data for training, and you don't want to use all your data. You want to split your data in like a 20-80% map or a split. So use 80% of your data for training and 20% of your data to test, to see how good your model is. So when I split the data here, I'm going to Shift Enter, and I'm going to split into training and test data. And it ran really quickly here. Now I have 8,637 records for training data. Next, you can read through and explaining more about pipelines. But pipelines are a newer development in machine learning, and really has simplified this deployment process, because you can apply all your transformations to your data within the model, within the pipeline, without having to transform your data in an app before passing it into the model. Okay, so I'm building a pipeline that's just changing strings to integers. Then I am assembling all these features of my model into a vector. And in order to train, I'm going to use a machine learning algorithm called random forest classifier. And this classifier is going to train using the features, this vector of features I had just created, and trying to predict our label, which is, are you at risk for heart rate failure or not? So Shift Enter, as you can see, I've gone 10, 11, and now I'm going through and actually going to create a label converter. And what happens when you have a machine learning model that gives you a prediction, I need to return that prediction into something that makes sense for the user. Since the machine learning model is only dealing with numbers, or ones and zeros, or anything in between there, you need to convert that value back to something that is understandable by the user. And in our case, we're just interested in a Boolean value, yes or no, true or false, are you at risk for heart rate failure or not? So in order to do that, I create a label converter, a transformer. All right, I've created all the classes for my pipeline, and now I'm building a transformation pipeline to transform my data and just kind of display what that looks like. So here is my new table with all the existing data and then new data that has recently been built. Okay, then next is I really want to build a pipeline that combines all of this. It combines all the transformers and then also combines that small machine learning piece, that random forest classifier, and then finish with a label converter, converting what the classifier spits out into something human and readable. All right, so I build my pipeline, and in order to train my model, all I have to do is call fit on my pipeline and pass it my training data. So when I call pipeline.fit with my training data, it returns a model. And what's happening here is it's going through multiple iterations, and it is finding the best fit of a line through my training data to make predictions. And in order to evaluate that, I can just call the evaluate function, and that tells me that I have an accuracy of 87%. So 87% of the time, my predictions are accurate. However, 12% of the time, I am in error. Okay, so at that point, you've done the hard data science work. You've gathered your data, you've transformed your data, you've built a pipeline, you've trained a model, and you've evaluated your model. Those are 5 very hard tasks to do, and I just breezed through them. But again, this is an example of a full end-to-end flow, right? I want to show how to take data and discover insights by training and using a prediction model, deploying that model, and then exposing those predictions, those insights to a user. So the next part, if I go back to my, if I go back up here and look at my diagram. So again, as a data science developer, we've gone through and we've created a workspace, an IDE. We've backed it with Apache Spark object storage, and we are using a Jupyter Notebook for our programming environment. We've loaded our data, and we've trained our model. Now we want to deploy that model into a place that's consumable by other applications. And in order to do that, we use our Watson Machine Learning service. I think of it as the cloud foundry or pivotal of models, right? You need some as-a-service place to store your trained model. To get started with that, I'm going to import a Python library called ML Repository Client. This is a Watson library that's available. There are links to it in the project description as well if you want to run this from your local command line or from some other tool. All right, so the next step here is to get our credentials for the Watson Machine Learning service so we can store our model, and we're going to pass those credentials to this Python library that we just imported. In order to do that, I'm going to go back out to my dashboard, and in IBM Cloud on my dashboard, I'm going to look for my Cloud Foundry services, and I'm looking for my machine learning service that I created earlier. And in my machine learning service, on the left-hand side, I'm going to click Credentials. So in order for the machine learning service to be linked to DSX and to be linked to my app, there are credentials created behind the scenes. I can either create a new set of credentials that I can share and expire as I would like, or I can just view what is currently being used. And I'm going to view what is currently being used. These credentials include the URL, an access key, your username, password, and the instance ID of your Watson Machine Learning service. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these, and I'm going to return back to my Python notebook. Comment these out because they are not in Python formatting. I'm going to grab my password for my Watson Machine Learning service. And I'm going to grab my username. And again, these are just credentials that were generated for me. Okay, so I verify that my service path is the same, IBM Watson ML.bluemix.net. And I now have my username and password. I'm going to hit Shift Enter to run that cell. And now with the Python library, I'm going to connect a client to the Watson Machine Learning Service and authorize my username and password. Great. Okay. So at this point, I need to, I want to save the model that I trained out in the Watson Machine Learning Service. And I want to call it the heart failure prediction model. But before I do that, I want to go back here to my machine learning service in IBM Cloud, select Manage, and here on my dashboard, I'm going to click Launch Dashboard for the Watson Machine Learning Service. And really what this is a dashboard to show you all the models that you've trained and deployed. And as you see here at the moment, I have 0 models, 0 deployment. And there are a bunch of additional sample applications to help jumpstart your journey with IBM Watson Machine Learning Service. Okay, so again, I have my Python library. I've authenticated with the Watson Machine Learning Service. I've created a pipeline, an artifact for that, the pipeline, my transformations, my model training, and my label conversion at the end. And I'm going to pass this artifact to the ML repository client, the Watson ML repository client. I'm going to save it. And what this is doing is it's going out and saving the model that we just trained within this notebook as a service and on the Watson Machine Learning Service. So it's through HTTP request. It's just calling the Watson Machine Learning Service APIs hidden behind this Python library and performing an HTTP post to save our model out on the Watson Machine Learning Service. And just to show you, I'm going back to my Watson Machine Learning Service dashboard. I'm just going to hit refresh. And I would expect to see now it has a heart failure prediction model. Zoom in here a little bit on the left. And this heart failure prediction model has an expected schema of inputs, age, heart rate, BMI, cholesterol, the same schema that we saw when we first imported our data set. It gives us a latest version URL to access this model, when it was created, some information about how that model was created and what runtime environment it was created with. And I can get these same properties by using the Python library back here in my notebook. If I want to print it a little prettier, I can go through and get these properties as well. Now, I want to show that you can also import models that have been saved out in the Watson Machine Learning Service. So I'm going to just re-import the model that I had created, importing it by its UUID. I'm printing out some information. And at this point, I've gone through and I've created a predictive model, and I've trained it and saved it on the Watson Machine Learning Service. Now, in addition, this notebook continues to go on to talk about how to save the model to the Watson Machine Learning Service and deploy the model and consume the model all through REST API calls. But I don't want to spend my time talking about programming. I just want to show this, again, this end-to-end flow. So the Watson Machine Learning Service, if I go back to my dashboard and look at my model, it shows that there are 0 deployments, my heart failure prediction model. And let me scroll down here on the README so we're in the same place. All right, I'm going to now that I've saved my model, I need to create a deployment of a model, an instance of this model for consumption. And I'm going to click on this 3-dot menu here on the right-hand side, and again, the Watson Machine Learning Service dashboard, and select Create Deployment. I'm going to call my deployment as noted in the README here, heart failure prediction model deployment. It's an online model. You can also do stream or batch. Okay, success. The heart failure prediction model deployment is now active and it's online. If I want to see details of this model, here are the deployment IDs, URL, and the scoring endpoint. The scoring endpoint is what is being used by our Node.js app. So now that we have a model deployed, the Node.js app that is deployed with this application that we first deployed at the beginning is ready to use to call this deployment, this heart failure prediction model deployment. So I'm going to go back here to my IBM Cloud dashboard. And one thing to note that since I've just deployed the model, I need to restart my application. I'm restarting my app so it picks up the instance of that deployment. Just restarting the demo app here. Should not take very long, so I'm just going to go ahead and open up my demo wp-jam.mybluebanks.net in a new tab, and it's up and running. So previously, when I clicked on this button, we received an error. Now, when I click on score, there is a model that has been trained and deployed out there with the data science experience of Watson Data Platform and IBM's machine learning service, where the model is being hosted. So it is now being backed, and hopefully when I click score, success. It sends all of these feature values, my age, my sex, my family history of heart rate failure or not, from a smoker, and additional information that are parameters to that model. And it gives me a confidence that, yes, I am at risk of heart rate failure based off of all the other 10,800 cases that this model had studied when we trained it. With 62.88% confidence. Not super confident, but there is confidence that I'm at risk for heart rate failure. Okay, again, with that has now taken us through the entire end-to-end flow. Here we worked as an app developer, we worked as a data science developer, and we deployed a Node.js app on Cloud Foundry. We trained a machine learning model on DSX backed by Spark Object Storage in the Jupyter Notebook. And then we deployed that model out there on Watson Machine Learning. And as an external customer or an external user, we're able to utilize those insights that model provides through a web app, through this Node.js web app, by calling the machine learning model in Watson Machine Learning. That being said, I thank you for taking your time to watch this demo. Again, there are additional details that are explaining the different steps of this process of training. There are additional demos and explanations out there on IBM's website at developer.ibm.com/code. And again, the GitHub repository for this project is github.com/ibm/predictive-model-on-Watson-ML. Predictive model on Watson ML. And thank you for taking the time.